Good evening, Jonathan. Good evening, guests. This is the smoking section, and I'm very happy to have Jonathan Bowen-Leopold on my show tonight.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you for coming down. Jonathan, for my viewers, Jonathan is perhaps one of our more, what would I say, enthusiastic members of Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights.
Thank you, Stephen.
How long have you been in Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights now?
That's a good question, Stephen. I first joined you folks like 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was maybe like 2 years.
Was it 2 or 3? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually met with you at a local coffee place. We talked about smoking and.
What coffee place do we meet at?
I don't remember the name. It's literally next door to the studio here.
Really?
Yes, we met over coffee. And we went outside and I was chain smoking and...
Right, and the name of that place is what? A Mariposa.
Something like that. But
and how did you find out about Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights?
You know, it's funny. It's one of the miracles of the internet.
Yes.
I was just fed up. I mean, I've been a heavy smoker for years. Mm-hmm. You know, I work in the mental health field. I'm openly in mental health recovery and identify as a peer. And, I'm still helped by a mild amount of meds and... You know, I don't have serious mental problems. You know, I don't see how I could get through the workday and hold work that helps other people, like helpful volunteering, like CCSR.
Right, but you still haven't told me how you found out about CCSR.
Oh, I apologize. Right. No, it's funny. I was searching on Google. I was very frustrated. I found some stuff on the Heartland Institute, and although I'm differ them some, they have great smoking articles.
They do. They certainly do.
But I ended up finding NYC Clash, run by Audrey Silk in New York.
Yeah.
And on that page, as I was looking through for smokers' rights on my cell phone, very frustrated and upset at non-smoking, I found your group, CCSR. It was listed as recommended for the Boston area by NYC Clash.
Oh, isn't that great? Because Audrey Silk is probably the most active smokers' rights advocate, certainly in the country.
Right.
And I'm going to speak a little bit more about Audrey later in the program. But at what age did you start smoking?
Oh, I started smoking when a little bit when I was in middle school, and I was really bright and I had good test scores, but I didn't have great grades, and I had some anxiety and depression, and I really found smoking very helpful.
Well, I mean, when you say middle school, because when I went to school, in New York State, we had grammar school was to 6th grade, then junior high was 7th, 8th, I don't know what, 7th and 8th, and then 9th through 12th was. So what is middle school? How old were you when you were in middle school?
Well, good question. I started smoking a little bit when I was 12, and then I smoked some in high school, and I wasn't great at organized sports, but I was pretty good at skateboarding after many years, and then I got into shadow boxing. But
shadow boxing?
Sure. And I would smoke as much as possible working out at home.
And let's see, how did you first get associated with smoking? I mean, did you smoke with your friends, or did you smoke your parents' cigarettes, or what?
No, I didn't take much cigarettes from my stepmother, but I would smoke with friends, and I was never into like hard drug use, and
Did you ever smoke marijuana?
Well, some, yeah, and it's funny because when I was 17, I was still in a lot of advanced classes, but I was having.
Wait, I didn't hear what you said. You were still what?
When I was 17, I was I was having a tough time, and I was in advanced classes in high school, but I really counted on smoking, and I did smoke marijuana some, but once I was on some meds and getting back to doing well in school, the marijuana, it was okay, but I take my meds at night, and I would just conk right out.
Is that right?
So, yeah, but I mean, with something like smoking, I can stay up and do homework or escape work.
So you never have smoked a lot of marijuana?
Well, certainly not in years, but I think marijuana is good for you to a certain degree. I mean, a lot of people who really love marijuana.
There's no question about that.
And it's not dangerous. I don't have any problem with.
You can't overdose on marijuana. That's right.
Well, that's true. Otherwise you'll fall asleep.
But but don't you think? Do you think marijuana would be helpful to someone, let's say, who is in high school and suffering from depression,
Well,
do you think marijuana could be helpful for that person?
I think marijuana is helpful, but once somebody's on a lot of meds, especially if they're having emotional problems, I mean, in some ways it's good because they might just fall asleep instead of getting too drunk. But the other thing is, tobacco and coffee are very helpful. I mean, when somebody drinks coffee and smokes cigarettes, they're not there to party or to binge drink. They're usually there to, working on something or.
I began smoking my first cigarette, I was about 5 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
My sister and I think my sister instigated it, but we went into the bathroom
Yeah.
to smoke a cigarette, both of us.
I remember the Catcher in the Rye. Holden found his, I think, younger sister smoking, was it? Or
And how old was she?
pretty young, yeah, I don't know, 10 or 12.
So what do you think motivates the anti-smokers to, for example, there's so many people with issues of depression or anxiety, or who have difficulty concentrating, and there's so many people, let's say, for example, who suffer from schizophrenia, who get a lot of comfort from smoking. Why do you think, and there are so many other people, I mean, not necessarily people with mental illness, what do you think motivates the anti-smoking groups to so sadistically restrict and tax and stigmatize people who smoke?
You've got a point there, Stephen. I mean,
What's the question?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, I still deal with mental health struggles. I sort of get the feeling that richer, business people, they might look down on smokers for not accepting what more money people would think is fiscally successful, or they might not see the other side of the story. I mean, a lot of folks who have mental health or cognitive troubles who volunteer, they might be facilitating 12 steps groups, but that should be more looked up to. I mean, there are a lot of people with schizophrenia or bipolar who count on cigarettes throughout the day to function.
But my question, Jonathan, was what do you think motivates people, for example, particularly people in the medical field,
right,
or the public health field, I'm going to use the word again, so sadistically tax, stigmatize, and restrict people who smoke? Why do you have any idea what motivates them?
I don't know. I think it's too bad. I mean, I think that they will take a new approach that that medical folks would call forward thinking or whatever, which doesn't change that people like AA for decades is has recommended coffee and cigarettes even instead of chewing
but
booze.
I mean, the people in the medical profession, do you think their intentions are good, or do you think, for example, they might be you do think they're good, or you don't
I
think
think
they're
they
good?
try to be very well-meaning. I mean, doctors can be great for a broken ankle or for a knee injury, but no, I mean, I'm not. It's like they want the big pharma cure, or they may just.
You think they're kind of under the influence of big pharma and that type of thing?
I very much think so. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made for overly taxing us smokers.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
really?
terrible. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you'll get a lot of the money that is taxed on cigarettes goes to non-smoking funds, like big billboards that say bad things about smoking. And
do you know how much money that Massachusetts makes a year
huge amount.
from tobacco taxes?
No.
It's close to $1 billion.
It's terrible. Yeah.
I think it's about the fifth largest source of income for the state.
Yeah.
And
I hear you, and I mean, and there are a lot of folks who would say, non-smokers are known. They're saying we would think that was a good thing if it went to programs helping people who are dealing with smoking too much. I disagree. I love smoking. I mean, I think that.
Well, I would certainly hope that $1 billion never goes, not one penny if possible, goes to anti-smoking groups.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean,
I would rather they take the money and throw it into the ocean than give it to anti-smoking groups.
No, it's true. I mean, throughout history, a lot of very bad people use non-smoking as a rallying cry.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I think it's too bad. I mean, I think in all fields, researchers tend to find what they're funded to find. And, I mean, whether that's their fault or not.
Yeah, really. It's an interesting thought, yes.
Yeah, I mean, in the non-smoking groups, I mean, it's easy to say, we blew smoke at a rat, and we decided that it made the rat unhealthy, with their research.
Well, I mean, actually, I don't think they've ever made a rat unhealthy with cigarettes.
I don't think so.
But now, Jonathan, you're very you move around a lot. You're very mobile.
Well, sure, thank you.
I'm not that mobile. I don't ever leave Cambridge, basically.
Oh, sure.
But you come all the way in from Quincy, and
Sure.
you work in the area of Government Center, and today you went to, we have in the Cambridge, Boston area, two wonderful smoke shops. One is
Oh,
called
yeah.
Peretti's,
Yeah, in
which is-
Boston.
which
yeah.
has been around for, I think, over 100 years.
Yeah, it looks like a time capsule.
Right.
It really does.
And then
yeah.
we have one called Levitt and Pierce,
Yeah.
both of which have been
Yeah.
around. Now, you were at Peretti's yesterday, and
Yeah.
you were at Levitt and Pierce today, and you gave me a cigar
Oh, sure.
that I'm very grateful for, because I really enjoy cigars.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy any form of tobacco, including snus, cigars, pipes, and cigarettes. And this you say is a Swiss cigar?
Just an inexpensive Swiss cigar. I mean,
Really?
yeah.
I've never even heard of a Swiss cigar.
It's funny, yeah. I mean, it's good because, it's past lawmakers in Massachusetts. I'm very upset about the smoking purchasing age going up to 21.
You are upset about
I'm
it.
very upset. I mean, even non-smokers would say it's unacceptable for somebody to be able to join the military and carry
Yeah.
a gun and vote and marry at 18, but they can't buy a pack of cigarettes if they're having
Right, well,
anxiety or depression. Yeah.
Now, why? So you're upset about it? Yeah, I think it's a bad thing. I mean, actually, I think it's probably not a good idea for to be able to. I mean, I think the age of maturity of adulthood is 18, and I
It's
think
true,
that's a good
yeah.
age. But they say, there's all this kind of what I consider to be neuroscientific quackery,
Oh,
which says,
sure.
your brain isn't fully developed till you're 25 or you're 30 or you're 35, and so therefore you shouldn't be able to make the decision for yourself. Well, Michael Siegel, who is a public health professor at Boston University, and he's in many ways an anti-smoker, but he's also realizes that the anti-smoking movement has gone too far. I mean, he always notes that, for example, something like alcohol can be an acute danger. I mean, like an adolescent can drink 6 beers and crack up his car, but cigarette smoking is something that, if it does harm you, it takes 40 or 50 years.
It's true. I mean, it does.
If it does harm you, yeah.
Right, man, and I don't really think so. I mean, it sort of gets to the power of suggestion. Like, you'll
Oh,
see
is that right, really?
You'll get to mental health recovery, too. They call it learned helplessness. Like, if somebody tells you,
Yeah.
like in the mental health system, they'll point out, to be like, these folks, they're dying at a much younger age, and they blame it all on smoking.
Right.
The problem is, people used to sit, they'd be stuck in state hospitals, taking, Thorazine or Haldol,
Well, tell
and they
me-
have no exercise, and they'd smoke. And when they
Right.
passed away early,
Right.
they didn't want to live, and they heard bad things, they blame it on smoking.
Right.
which is
Now,
not
what
fair.
do you think? Tell me a little bit more about this learned hopelessness. I don't.
Learned helplessness.
Helplessness, yes.
It's sort of like when people are learned to be too dependent. Like, people talk about their nanny state, but learned helplessness is an example. Like in the mental health system, they'll say you gotta just relax and just go to your day program and take meds. And it doesn't help people to help the community back or to have a good purpose or mission. And that often is more likely to lead people not wanting to live than cigarettes. And I mean, there are a lot of folks like Mark Twain who lived much longer than his contemporaries while smoking, and he was very active. He was
When
helping
did
the
you
community.
start becoming interested not only in smoking, but in the history of smoking and in the politics of smoking, the politics of
Yeah.
tobacco? When did you become?
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, I've done some research. I mean,
Well, that's very obvious.
Well,
You've done some
Thank
research.
you. Yes. I mean, there's all kinds of free stuff on YouTube talking about or on Wikipedia. Like in World War II, the U.S. Armed Forces, the tobacco companies really felt bad, and they donated huge amounts of tobacco.
Right.
So the U.S. troops and a lot of the Allies had very good smoking. They had free cigarettes a lot, and the Axis was very against smoking. And
Right, but I think, the Axis powers being, Mussolini, Hitler, and Franco were lifelong non-smokers, whereas
It's true. Yeah.
Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt were heavy smokers.
Oh, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of the Axis, they would promote their non-smoking, racial purity and terrible things. But yeah, I mean, and even these days, like our troops, I think that often in foreign lands, they like coming back to the base to have cigars together, and they can gather around and talk, and you know.
Listen, let's just go to the smoker of the week, shall we? Have you ever seen this? You know, I got a smoker of the week here. He
Yeah.
may have been on before, but we'll put him on again if I can find him,
Right.
and we'll see if we can talk a little bit about his experience with smoking.
Right.
Okay, let's see if I get this right. Working here on, my technical skills. And, oh, there we go. How do you like this guy?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah.
That's a self-portrait.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good stuff.
That's a self-portrait.
Yeah.
And it was Kurt Vonnegut used to joke. He would say that he was going to sue the cigarette companies because on the package of cigarettes it said it was going to kill him. Yet he was in his 80s at the time, or late 70s, and he was doing just fine. So he said that was kind of false advertising.
No, I think that's true. I mean, it's sort of like with the learned helplessness, the power of suggestion. Like, there may be a lot of doctors who might be forced into a non-smoking point of view, or they'll have unfair smoking policies at work, and they'll keep thinking their patient will die, and the patient believes it.
And then they tell the patient, you're going to be sick, you're going to da-da-da.
Right. But I mean, if we told them different, more honest things, like with Mark Twain, like he loves smoking, he lived a long time so he could write and promote good things. He lived very long. It was 80s, I think.
No, Mark Twain. Well, Mark Twain, he died at the age of 75.
Right, which is pretty good for back
Well,
then.
no,
Yeah.
it was above, the average life expectancy for non-smokers. So let's put it that way. And
Right.
of course, he lived a very active life, and what's most important is a very productive life. And so did Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
Vonnegut died at the age of 84.
Yeah.
So evidently, his years and years and years of smoking did not seem to do him any harm.
Well,
And of course, some people say that tobacco is the handmaiden of literature. And
Well, sure.
For most writers, or many writers, certainly in the last century, certainly were very heavy smokers.
for sure. I mean, I know that the Confederates used to get very upset at Mark Twain, and I think what helped Mark Twain with living a long time, he didn't smoke expensive tobacco, but he always had that to look forward to. He had a good cause, like writing that's good propaganda or whatever, and he could chain smoke during the day.
Well, let me
and
ask
that's
you.
a lot
So
more
what
fun
is?
to live for.
Let's get back
Yeah.
local. Let's start talking local. What's it? Tell us a little bit about Paredes. It's in Park Square.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's right near the Boston Public Garden.
Yeah.
The flower gardens and near historic, buildings and hotels, and it's great. It's this nice little place. They really got the original look. It's lots of good hardwood areas. And it's funny because sometimes these stores, they have good connections, and completely legally they'll charge less because like rolled cigarettes that are looked down upon. Like some of the policymakers in Massachusetts, they used to say children would smoke chocolate Camel cigarettes, so we'll
Yes.
ban those. But other tobaccos
Well, I mean, are the people
okay.
at Paredes friendly?
They're very friendly, and I think they're grateful to be there. And although that there's that darn raise to 21, that you can smoke indoors in certain places, like certain tobacco stores, like
Well, you can-
Paredes. Yeah,
You can smoke in
If you're-
Paredes?
Yes, but there's a sign you have to be 21.
Right,
at the door.
right. It used to be you have to be 18. Now it's a sign you have to be 21.
I know.
And who's now? Do you prefer one of those tobacco shops to the other?
It's a good question. They're entirely different. I mean, one thing they do to help folks who aren't rich is they'll have a lot of good, like, ethical rolling tobaccos. They don't have, like, chemicals in them. They're made on smaller farms. Lots of good, inexpensive
They have
cigars.
those where at Paredes?
At Paredes and at Levitt and Pierce. In fact, they bring in ethical rolling tobacco. And completely legally, they charge much less than for cigarettes that are really looked down on, like Marlboros or whatever.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of respect for the tobacco companies. I think they
Yeah.
have produced a very good product for a very long time,
Right.
and I think they've done so. In really, the tobacco companies have been under siege by control freaks and
It gets a little scary. It's true.
anti-capitalists and
Yeah.
busybodies and Nazi-like anti-smoking groups.
It gets a little scary. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's too bad because, because somebody has scientific research, if you could, with free speech, freedom of religion, we should not have to listen to only like the medical non-smoking research community.
Right.
I mean, just because they have this evidence doesn't mean it's the only approach to things.
And it doesn't
really
mean their
isn't.
evidence
Yeah.
is very good either.
It's not. It's terrible. I mean,
Let me ask you a question now. You you commented on the FDA's,
oh, sure.
would you
Yeah.
call that a website, or what would you say that was?
On the regulations.gov?
Yeah.
Yes, we commented that you had a bunch of great notes. I know that you, Steve, have been collecting like postcards to send to the FDA.
Right.
What I wrote down is when I was in like all kinds of like peer support, like trainings, and I took a couple certifications, and one thing I learned is that the Native Americans are considered to have established the first real peer support in the 1400s, and they were somewhat heavy tobacco smokers.
Well, now, where did you get that piece of information? Because I've never heard that.
No, it's true. Native Americans are way ahead. I mean, decades or centuries later, like the Central Mass and, as you know, Northern Connecticut were centers of the best cigar wrapper growing.
But still, I mean,
Right.
we still produce cigar wrappers
Right.
here along the Connecticut Valley.
And everybody's heard of Native American like peace pipes. They use that sort of approach to dealing with alcoholism with people within the tribe.
Mhm.
So they gather together over tobacco and try to recover from heavy alcohol use. Yeah.
Where did you find that out?
It's a good question. So a lot of the some of the trainers that are funded by the state of Massachusetts to do peer support trainings.
Yeah.
They that was absolutely considered a fact. Yeah.
You heard this from them?
Oh sure. It was. They're talking about it in the training. Yeah.
Yeah. So you haven't seen this, for example, in any books, let's say?
That's a good question. Not really. No. Although. I mean, in the times of the Native Americans, who really were kind of pioneers in tobacco, more than kind of, one thing that was different is they didn't claim to own property.
Yeah.
So when the Europeans got here, they'd fortify their houses, and that wasn't really their fault, but the Native Americans would share the tobacco. When they went hunting, they would share with each other, and it was good for peer support and trying to keep peace within the tribe.
Now, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but okay, I saw an announcement from Audrey Silk today that she's bringing a lawsuit against the Department of Housing and Urban Development and challenging their authority or power to ban smoking in all federally funded public housing. Have you seen that?
Yeah, yes, I did see it. I know that Audrey Silk, she's testified a lot in New York and been on a lot of local TV shows in New York City. She had a very good reputation as a New York City police officer.
Yes, that's right.
Before she retired and became a tobacco advocate. And I think that says good things. But
Now, did you see that announcement today?
I saw it. It's been up there online for a couple of days now.
Is that right?
Yes, and I mean, I think there are a lot of folks in like public housing, and you get some of the learned helplessness thing.
Yeah,
So, like,
certainly.
if somebody's at home and you deny the tobacco they need to work and function, maybe if they're physically and or mentally having like a health disability, there's allowing smoking helps people to function throughout the day.
Well, let me ask you, Jonathan, do you have a credit card?
I do, but not a fancy one.
Well, I mean, a credit card from a major credit card company.
Yeah.
Do you think that in the next day or so you could make a contribution to, Audrey is asking for contributions to help her fund?
I think so, or I might send them a bunch of like good ethical
Well, why don't
tobacco
you send
or both.
Could you send them a $5 donation?
Of course, yeah. I mean, if folks like you and Audrey do a lot for free.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, I am
Yeah.
trying to encourage people to send Audrey a $5 or donation. I mean, more if they have it.
Yeah.
But the important thing is, I think a lot of people will be reluctant
Right.
to donate if they don't have a lot of money. Could you send in a $5 donation?
Absolutely, yeah, and I'll help promote it on social media too.
Oh,
I mean,
great.
I very much believe in these causes,
Well, do you have your own Facebook page?
I do, yeah.
And what do you usually discuss on your Facebook page?
A lot of it's pro-tobacco stuff. It's
Oh,
funny.
good.
With like Audrey being a cop, I found this great video on YouTube of this Asian cop in Hawaii, and he like skateboards with out in the town, you know, checking
Yeah.
out local areas to help, you know, looking out for everybody.
Right.
But I mean, Audrey, you know, has very good reputation with the cops, and she's a very good tobacco advocate.
Right.
And I think there's a link there. You know.
Now, do you have people whom you, like a list of people whom you try to influence in terms of smokers' rights?
It's a good question. I post a lot of like, you know, I like and reply on a lot of stuff on
Yeah.
Facebook. I mean, it's funny, like the probably like some of the most effective stuff, believe it or not, is our Paul from CCSR, one of our co-volunteers.
Yes, Paul Neff.
Yes, he did a great job. He was pointing out that all of our Facebook, there are like, you know, pretty women and lipstick and, you know, cigarettes, Facebook pages. They have all these beautiful
Yeah, that's
pictures
true.
of women smoking.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you know, I would like to get people to kind of respond to the FDA, respond to the CDC, respond to government, respond to state government, respond to federal government, because otherwise they're going to trample on all of our rights.
It's true. I mean, it's a bad thing. I mean, you know, I tried some of the nicotine replacements and found them very ineffective. I mean, even e-cigarettes are great, but I kind of had an anxiety attack because I was so dependent on cigarettes or
Yeah.
cigars instead. In Massachusetts, some of the state offices are pretty tobacco friendly. At the state house, they I think they still have an ashtray out.
Well,
But they don't bother people
no,
from smoking
they're pretty
there.
cool at the
Right,
State House.
Right.
Well, listen, Jonathan, you know, we're getting towards the end of our show,
Yeah.
and I wanted to thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
I'm going to pull up Kurt Vonnegut there. And thanks for watching the smoking section, and thanks for being on.
All right, and thank you, Stephen, for your listening.